guy, there'd be no event here. So this is the guy who founded the Florida Cannabis Coalition, which then we started doing events back in 2014. I had just left a job in marketing, moved to Florida, and my brother's like, hey, this guy wants to start a weed company. I know you're looking to do something else. And I was like, all right, maybe this is a match that, you know, could work. So we met at a Starbucks and started a company, and you're looking at one of the products of that company right now, Cannadelic. So, Mr. Tom Quigley.
Thank you. Love you too, man. I feel so ill-prepared, I didn't bring a drum with me. So what I want to talk to you about today is creating real transformation. A transformation, I know that we always hear that people have used psychedelics and transformed and changed their life. And being in this space for a while now, I've looked back on that it's much more than just the medicine. So I want to talk about the work. And when I say the work, there's a number of different steps, and these steps come in no particular order for everyone, but they're a way that I kind of organize them together to make sense to myself. How did I get to where I am now from where I was before? And there's three main ones. Awareness is one of them, and psychedelics help us become more aware. In the same way that when we take anesthesia for surgery, our awareness reduces. When we use DMT, whether it's as a sacrament, as a medicine, or any of these ways, we're able to increase our awareness. But awareness doesn't just come from the moment that you take the medicine. We all have awareness. We're born with awareness. And when we're very young, our awareness is much clearer because everything is so new to us. The second stage, and we're going to go back into each one of these a little bit more, is recognition. Being able to recognize the things that you're becoming aware of. You know, there's a saying that we see what we're looking for. So if there's a lot of noise and a lot of clutter, even with the use of psychedelics, we may not see the things that we really need that are apparent to help us make a transformation in our life. And then there's integration. How do we take those things that we've recognized through awareness and integrate them? Integrate them into our daily life. Make the changes that we become aware of. Many times we know better, but we don't do better. So even before an experience with psychedelics, that awareness may have become present. It may have become present through a trauma, through a catastrophic event, and we become aware of some of the things that we may need to change in our life to optimize ourselves. But more importantly, we start becoming aware that we aren't who we think we are. You know, when we're born, everybody says that we have this awareness, but we also, any mother will tell you this, every child has its own personality, even in the womb. And from that personality, before it's even developed, is a core motive. That's your core driving force behind your life. And that's why a lot of times we say we have drawn away from our core self, or we're not living our true life as our true self because we lose track of that. Because through the filters of life, that core motive changes due to the programming that exists in the toxic culture that we are forced to survive in. So those filters range from everything from how you were raised, the schools that you went to, the things that have happened to you. And those things put a different filter. And sometimes they drive you away from what your core motive in life might have been. And I characterize those four core core motives with colors, red being power, blue being intimacy, white being peace, and yellow being fun. So, and we may know some of the characteristics and we may be able to identify those in others, but sometimes we can't even see them in ourselves. So we don't even know what color we are. With power comes leadership. It comes the initiative to move forward, go from point A to point B. But sometimes we're insensitive because we don't care how we get from point A to point B because we have a mission in mind. And when we have blue as our core motive, it's intimacy. And when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about your relationships, starting with your relationship with yourself and the power of those relationships. So people that are in that blue category, they may have a small circle of friends, but they're really tight. And when one of them does something to them to betray them, it hurts much more deeply than somebody that is driven by power. White, they're at peace. They're very analytical. They look at all the facts. They understand everything before they make a move. They're logical. Reds and blues are controlling personalities. Yellows and blues are emotional and make decisions based on emotions. Reds and whites, well, they make decisions based on logic. And as we go through our life, depending on the situations that we are in, we make changes that move us much away from our core motive. And we have elements of all of these motives and we develop things from them, but with each core motive, there's a number of different strengths that we possess. And with those, there's also a number of different limitations that we possess. And many times, the filters in our life cause us to live within those limitations. So if we want to transform, the first step is really becoming aware of these things about ourselves, trying to find out who we are again, our why, digging deep in. And from looking back on it, I wish I did more of that work before my psychedelic experience. Because like I said, some of these things come in different stages. And for everybody, it's different. But that awareness comes from that. Also the awareness that we're able to do once we start understanding and building, and I want to stress this, it's 100% our own responsibility for any change that's ever going to happen in our life. We are not the victims of our filters. We are not the outcomes of the choices that we have made because we were surviving in the culture and the environment that we were in. As we start becoming aware of this, we can start recognizing now. Now we can see, what are those things that I've been doing? Where are my patterns? What patterns have led me to develop some of these dysfunctional habits, behaviors? Because core motive is before all of that. It's before your needs and wants, and understanding what your needs and wants are. And then as it builds up, that builds into your behaviors, your habits, and eventually the lifestyle that you live in, which is much farther away from the things that really satisfy you, the real needs and wants of your core motive. So we become lost. So sometimes we'll use psychedelics and we'll go through the experience and it'll all become clear to us. And we see all of these things and then we go back to our regular lives. But we don't do that third important step, which is integration, which that's a plan. Whether you own a business, you're building a house, you're doing anything, if you want to get to your intention, I stay away from the word goals now, because we get married to goals, right? So we want to point our arrow in a direction of where we want to go. And when we start seeing that, we get dragged away from that. And when we even get to what we thought was the goal, whether it was owning that nice boat without knowing how to sail it, or buying that fast car, or getting these things, we feel empty inside. because we forgot who we are. And the power of psychedelics can help you to find who you are. There's a lot of other modalities that you could do, whether it's breath work, energy, moving your energy. We work with boxing to help to clear the noise. And that's what psychedelics, and many people that turn to ayahuasca, for instance, it's their last resort. Their last thing that they're ready to try because they've gone through what the doctors have told them that they need. And they've listened to the programming of what's wrong with them. And they identify with that. So through this process, we can see these things. And then not only do we understand who we are and why we are who we are, but then we can also see how we can exist in this culture. So it's not about learning all this and selling all of your stuff and then couch surfing and doing yoga and healing other people and taking what you've learned very quickly and wanting to teach it. But it's really about doing this work, which is learning again, unlearning the things that you have learned over a lifetime of filters based on information that you now know is different. And we can change our belief system when we have new information. And that's why I feel knowledge is key. And understanding this process and what it is, and it is a process, and it's not a one-stop fix. It's not that I go for an ayahuasca weekend and everything's okay because I feel better coming out of it, and I felt the love, and I felt the vibrations. But I'm ready now to do those next things. And that's what the work is. The work is not the medicine. It's how you educate yourself before you even taste the medicine or make the decision to drink the medicine, the sacrament where we are. Because that's what we believe it is. It's just one part. It's a sacrament. It's to be treated with respect. Respect and honor. And knowing that it's a tool. Just like all the other tools that you may be learning through this process. Meditation, breath work, sound healing. As you can see, walking around here, there's so many different tools, right? And everybody wants you to use their tool because that tool is the best, right? But how are you going to use the tool without knowing how you're using it? We can be handed a hammer and not know that it'll nail a nail into the wood. But if we don't know how to use these tools, by being aware of this process. So the awareness, the recognition, the integration, choice. Once we start becoming aware and integrating this, we understand that there are choices that we can make based on this new information. And by looking at our old patterns and the choices that we've made in the past, we can identify how we can make a new choice. Make a new choice based on this new information that we've learned, we've become aware of, that we're integrating. And while we're integrating it, we're going to make a ton of mistakes, right? It's going to fire back up. You know, emotions are going to cause pre-conditioned, pre-programmed responses that our subconscious still holds on to. Because even though we know better, we're not doing better yet. And doing better takes practice. And that's why we develop practices in our daily life, whatever they may be, whether they're daily meditations, their breath work, their time for yourself, because again, it's 100% responsibility. If you're having trouble in your relationships, it's 100% your responsibility. If you're having trouble in your work, it's 100% your responsibility. It isn't your bosses, it isn't your coworkers, it isn't the way your mom treated you when you were a child. It is you have this 100% responsibility to learn and do better. And through knowing that, you can now start to envision these new choices through your practices. And what these practices do is they give you tools so when you start seeing those things pop up again, you can create some space. Whether it's a few breaths, a mantra that you tell yourself. And once you create that space, you can say, aha, and you see it, and then you recognize that maybe that new pattern was popping up, but you've already thought about this alternative choice. You've envisioned it. So you're going to try it. It may work right off the bat, may not, but you're trying. And that's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to truly transform your life. That's how you're going to make changes in all of your relationships. You know, on top of that, in our different core motives, you know, we play different roles in society. We're a successful business person. We're a husband. We're a parent. We're a leader. All of these different things. And sometimes when we become aware of these strengths and limitations that have made us very successful in one of those roles, or like Brad likes to say, in one of those suits that you're wearing today, because you have to be the best while you're in that suit, is starting to identify when to put on that suit and when to take off that suit between the roles that you play in society. And that's how not only do we learn, integrate, transform ourselves, but we transform the way we interact in society. And then the other things come. The vibrational, the energy, because you're comfortable there. We've spent a lifetime being comfortable in fight or flight modes. And we lost the confidence in ourselves because we forget who we are. So when we find ourselves, when we become aware of ourselves, that's when true transformation can occur. Thank you, guys. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
I was just wondering if you do like boot camps or like some kind of.
I'm sorry?
I was wondering if you do like boot camps or some kind of.
Boot camp. Well,
You just seem like. Like, you know what I mean? Like.
I don't do any boot camps. No, I do a lot of work with, these are my, the leaders of our ayahuasca church, where we work with a lot of people on helping them. It's right here now in Howie in the Hills, Inakawa. Yeah, so we're right here in Howie in the Hills. Yeah. And you could go on in inakawa.org and find out, and I got flyers out there, but yeah, no, I don't run boot camps. What color am I? I'm red. And I do have an assessment, and my website's wisemindchanges.com. You could go on there, and if you use the code Cannadelic, you can get a free base assessment of what your core motive is, and then you can look at it. And then if you want to get the full report by using that code, you'll get $10 off. It'll give you like 32 pages, which helps you to understand those things and your motives and things of that nature. But that's one tool of becoming aware. Yes, Pablo.
What's an example that you use for integration? What's an example of integration that you use?
So for integration, I feel that it has multiple meanings, but really integrating what you've learned into action. So taking the steps to do the things that you've recognized, but also integrating all parts of yourself. So those different suits and those different roles that you play in society, how do you integrate them into one whole person? And holistically, and it's mind, body, and spirit. They all work together. And a lot of times we focus too much on one and we neglect the other. And so by being able to bring back into homeostasis into your approach, you're able to maybe not make as quick advances in one aspect or the other, but you make foundational changes that are going to stick and last around. Yes?
Just, and this can be very quickly, like what is the most important element of reintegrating with your family after you've done ayahuasca ceremony, like far away from them, and like have that message to like accept them from the medicine when you're like kind of suicidal going into that?
You do it.
What's the major like reintegration?
Is that you do it.
Okay.
You do it.
Yeah.
You do it. You lose judgment. You lose judgment on yourself.
Someone doing that as their best friend and like create a
So,
partner.
So we do have a monthly integration call, or we call it integration call, but it's for families, to help families come in, and we help to educate that, in what we're doing. Yeah, but again, the big part is, a lot of times we want to prove to everybody that we've changed when we see the first changes. It's really just doing it, and losing the judgment of worrying about. Just do it. Do it. Move forward. Keep working on yourself. You don't have to prove to anybody that you've changed. People will see it. Oh, and thank you, Pete, for everything that you've done with this organization. I mean, I know Pete touched on it earlier, but when we started this, it was all about knowledge and education and teaching people, and you've taken it to another level, and I'm really proud of you, brother.
Gonna make me cry before I gotta take a mic. So thanks, Tom. So our next speaker also, this can call.